Chosen one, the journey to becoming the most charming man around women began not with the applause of a crowd or the sudden attention of strangers, but with a quiet realization deep within yourself. You walked through life for years, as many do, seeking connection, wanting to be noticed, trying to shape yourself into whatever might win approval or affection. There were moments you felt invisible, lost in the background noise of others who seemed effortlessly magnetic. Sometimes you overcompensated, trying too hard to say the right thing or be the man you imagined women desired. Other times you shrank from your own wants, afraid that your true energy was too much, too raw, too complicated to ever be accepted. But slowly, something in you began to shift. The more you tried to please, the less authentic you felt. Each attempt to impress, each strategy or persona borrowed from others, left you hollow and dissatisfied, like an actor lost backstage after the play is done. There were lonely nights when you wondered if you would ever unlock the secret to being wanted for who you actually are. You began to turn inward, not out of defeat, but out of a gentle, growing curiosity. You asked yourself, what if my greatest charm is not in my performance, but in my presence? What if the energy I tried so long to control was meant to be shared, not hidden or forced? This was the beginning of a quiet revolution. You stopped trying to outrun your flaws and started to accept them. You made peace with your longing, your awkwardness, your hunger for affection, your desire to touch and be touched by life. Instead of seeking perfection, you sought wholeness. Each day, you practiced a new honesty, letting your words and actions flow from the truth of your experience rather than the fear of rejection. You started to listen, not just to others, but to yourself. You paid attention to what made you come alive, to the subtle joy that followed when you let yourself be playful, when you spoke with kindness, when you gave attention without needing it in return. You discovered that charm was not about conquering a room, but about changing the air around you. Women began to notice the difference long before you did. You saw it first in their eyes, a lingering glance, a softening of expression, a laughter that bloomed richer when you spoke. Their conversations around you changed. They felt safe to tease you, to be silly, to lower their defenses. They felt both seen and respected, admired without being pursued. Your presence became an invitation, a gentle nudge that allowed women to bring more of themselves forward, to let their own charm and vitality rise up to meet yours. It was not about manipulation or the pursuit of attention for its own sake. You learned to delight in the company of women, not as conquests, but as mirrors, reflections of the energy you brought to each encounter. You asked real questions. You listened with your whole self, unafraid of pauses or silences, allowing the conversation to unfold naturally. You paid attention to details, remembered names and dreams and favorite stories, and responded with encouragement and humor. The more authentic you became, the more your energy shifted, becoming both warmer and more magnetic, without effort or artifice. Women responded to your presence as if you were a breath of fresh air, a reprieve from the noise of men who sought only to impress or control. As you continued to grow, chosen one, your new sexual energy emerged as a quiet, grounding force, something deeper and richer than anything you'd known before. It wasn't the brash confidence you'd once envied in others, nor was it a performance designed to draw a crowd. Instead, it was a settled knowing that radiated from within, a peace with your own desires and a genuine curiosity about the world around you. Women were drawn to this change before you ever spoke a word. They could feel it in the way you entered a room, in the calm of your posture, in the subtle electricity that seemed to hum just beneath the surface of your conversation. You no longer chased validation. You simply allowed connection. Where once you might have tried to steer the dialogue toward your accomplishments or your plans, now you found yourself wanting only to be present, to experience the moment for what it was. You made space for laughter, for gentle flirtation, for playfulness without expectation. You welcomed the awkwardness that sometimes comes with honest attraction, meeting it with a smile or a self-deprecating joke rather than embarrassment or bravado. You realized that charm was not about dazzling others, but about making them feel brighter and more alive in your presence. Women began to open up to you in new ways. They shared secrets, fears, and dreams they hadn't spoken aloud in years. They laughed more freely, argued with you playfully, asked for your advice or your company just for the pleasure of being near your energy. You discovered the power of real encouragement, how a well-timed compliment offered without agenda could make someone's whole day lighter. You found joy in listening to women talk about their lives, their passions, and the things that made them unique. Your presence became a safe place, a place of both excitement and comfort, where the women around you felt free to reveal more of who they truly were. As your new sexual energy settled into your bones, you noticed that your charm was no longer something you tried to manufacture. It was a natural extension of your wholeness. The old tension dissolved. You felt more at ease with yourself, and in turn, more at ease with everyone you met. Your gaze became both playful and grounded, your voice softer and yet more confident, your laughter deeper and more resonant. You discovered that the most magnetic men are those who dare to show up exactly as they are, who meet the world with openness and respect, who see others not as prizes to be won, but as people to be cherished. This was the real beginning of your legend, chosen one. Not in the stories others told about you, but in the energy you brought to every shared moment, the subtle, unforgettable charm of a man who is fully alive, fully present, and unafraid to be both strong and tender. Women around you noticed it first, but as you grew, you realized that your own sense of joy, freedom, and connection was the greatest gift of all. And in the warmth of your presence, life itself began to reveal more of its beauty, inviting you, and those who were lucky enough to share your company, into a richer, more vibrant world. Chosen one, as the reality of your transformation took root, you noticed how your relationships with women began to shift in ways both subtle and extraordinary. You no longer felt the pressure to perform, to manufacture charm, or to project an image that wasn't truly yours. Instead, there was a relaxed confidence in your movements, an ease in your voice, and an openness in your body language that communicated more than any clever words ever could. Women were drawn not just to your appearance or the novelty of your company, but to the sense of groundedness that followed you wherever you went. You found yourself moving through rooms with a kind of lightness, your energy a silent invitation for others to join you in presence. Where once you might have been anxious to be noticed, now your simple enjoyment of the moment radiated outward, naturally pulling people into your orbit. The conversations you shared with women became less transactional, less about getting something or proving yourself, and more about genuine exchange, an exploration of ideas, emotions, and stories. You realized you had become a man who listened not just to words, but to the pauses and the music beneath them, to the laughter between jokes, and to the quiet that sometimes lingered after something honest was spoken. Women around you began to respond in surprising ways. Some seemed drawn to your steadiness, seeking you out for comfort, advice, or just a moment of warmth in the middle of a busy day. Others were pulled in by your playfulness, the way your teasing never carried an edge of cruelty, the way your humor was shared rather than performed. You became known as someone who could hold space for both seriousness and silliness, who could dance in conversation from the profound to the lighthearted without lose sight of the person in front of you. It was in these moments that your charm revealed itself as something far deeper than flirtation. It became a force that inspired others to be more themselves, to speak more freely, to drop their masks and show up as they truly were. Your sexual energy was present in every encounter, but it was never aggressive or imposing. Instead, it was a quiet confidence, a spark in your eyes, a resonance in your presence, a sense that you were at home in your own skin. Women felt it in the way you met their gaze without looking away, in the easy comfort of your smile, in the gentle touch of your hand when laughter or empathy called for it. There was no pressure in your attention, only appreciation. No urgency in your attraction, only an honest curiosity about who each woman was and what made her unique. Some women responded to your energy with immediate openness, their own spirits rising to meet yours. They shared stories, dreams, and confessions with you that they hadn't told anyone else, sometimes surprising even themselves with how much they wanted to reveal. Others were more reserved, but you noticed that even their caution softened over time, their eyes warming, their voices growing more animated in your company. You became a safe harbor, a place where a woman could bring her excitement, her pain, her questions, and know she would be received with kindness, respect, and genuine interest. The most remarkable change was not in how women saw you, but in how you began to see yourself. You realized that your charm was not something you put on like a jacket, but a current that ran through you when you stopped resisting your own truth. It was born of your willingness to be vulnerable, to admit when you didn't know something, to celebrate your wins and laugh at your mistakes. The charm others experienced was simply the overflow of your own joy in being alive, your gratitude for the company of others, and your refusal to let fear or shame set the boundaries of your world. With each passing day, chosen one, your reputation as the most charming man around women began to take on a life of its own. Stories about you traveled through circles of friends, sometimes exaggerated into legend, sometimes whispered as quiet appreciation. Women who had met you only briefly spoke of you with a fondness that surprised even them, recalling how your presence made an ordinary day unforgettable, how your attention made them feel both seen and celebrated. The women who knew you best recognized the authenticity behind your charm, the way you uplifted others not as a tactic, but as a natural extension of your spirit. Your charm became the lens through which women measured other connections. They noticed the difference between the shallow flattery of those who tried too hard and the effortless comfort of your presence. You were the standard by which kindness, attention, and playful respect were measured. This did not create envy or resentment, but rather a gentle ripple of inspiration. Women around you found themselves wanting to be kinder, more open, more joyful, mirroring the lightness you brought into their world. You became a catalyst for new kinds of conversations. In your company, women felt free to speak of things they might otherwise keep hidden, their passions, their ambitions, their vulnerabilities. You held space for them to be both strong and uncertain, both wise and silly. You never weaponized your charm. You used it to create spaces where others could be more themselves. Compliments were given sincerely, without agenda, and received with gratitude. You understood the power of a well-timed smile, of meeting someone's eyes when they needed encouragement, of listening with your whole being when they needed to be heard. You noticed, too, how your energy drew women together, not in competition, but in camaraderie. You had become the center of circles where laughter flowed freely, where kindness multiplied, where the energy of one woman's confidence lifted others to take up more space, to laugh louder, to share more boldly. Women left your presence feeling renewed, lighter, more willing to trust in their own magnetism. In your company, beauty was never a contest, and desire was never a threat. It was a shared celebration, an affirmation that connection could be both exciting and safe. There were moments, of course, when you were tested, when a woman's interest became overwhelming, or when you felt the weight of so many expectations. In these times, you leaned on the authenticity that had brought you this far. You remembered that your charm was not a promise to be everything for everyone, but a permission to be exactly who you are, moment by moment. You responded to disappointment with honesty, to adoration with humility, to misunderstanding with compassion. The more you trusted yourself to navigate each encounter with care, the more you discovered that your sexual energy was not a resource to be spent, but an endless wellspring, replenished by every real and honest connection. With every passing encounter, chosen one, your legend grew. Not because of the numbers, but because of the depth and quality of your presence. Women remembered you not for what you took, but for what you gave. The gift of genuine attention, the joy of honest laughter, the feeling of being seen and cherished just as they are. In the quiet moments, when the world slowed and you were left with only your own reflection, you felt a new sense of peace. You understood that charm was never about having power over others, but about inspiring them to claim the full power and beauty of themselves. And as you continued to move through life with this understanding, the world around you blossomed in response, revealing opportunities for joy, intimacy, and wonder that you had only just begun to imagine. Chosen one, the shift in your presence became unmistakable, not just to women but to yourself. Where once you might have anxiously prepared for a conversation or replayed the words you should have said, Now you moved with a grounded assurance that turned every encounter into a dance. Light, spontaneous, and endlessly surprising. There was no striving to impress, no calculation of how to win someone's approval. There was only a genuine curiosity about who you were meeting and what might unfold between you. In the warmth of this attitude, women found themselves both seen and allowed to be surprising, playful, and real. You discovered that the secret to true charm was your willingness to make every woman you encountered feel valued for her uniqueness. The world around you became alive with opportunity. A cashier's smile as you asked her how her day was, a stranger's laughter as you shared a small moment of mutual inconvenience, a friend's gratitude for your encouragement when she took a risk she'd been avoiding. Even in moments of shyness or hesitation, you brought a gentle energy that put others at ease, assuring them that imperfection was not only forgivable, but beautiful. Women opened up to you without effort, sometimes almost in disbelief at how comfortable they felt. There was something about your presence that said, "I am here, fully, and you are safe to be yourself." Some would test this with a joke or a challenging question, but instead of bristling, you welcomed the banter, even delighting in it. You understood that the dance of attraction thrived not on tension or drama, but on authenticity, on the ability to move from flirtation to friendship to honest conversation without ever losing the thread of respect. In your company, women often found themselves doing things they hadn't planned, revealing old dreams, asking for advice about things they were afraid to admit, making jokes that would have embarrassed them elsewhere. You became a catalyst for boldness, not by demanding attention, but by holding a space where others felt free to be bold themselves. Sometimes you noticed a kind of alchemy. A woman who began your conversation with nervous small talk would soon be glowing with laughter, or leaning in to share something she had never told anyone. You watched this happen again and again, always with a quiet sense of awe at how much beauty there was to discover when people felt safe to let down their guard. Your new sexual energy was never about conquering or seducing. It was about connection. Women felt the magnetism in the way you listened, in the confidence with which you held their gaze, in the ease of your gestures and your laughter. You didn't need to fill every silence. Sometimes, the best moments happened when you simply sat together in peace, letting the energy speak for itself. Women found that your charm was most powerful, not in your words, but in the sense of possibility you brought, a gentle reminder that every encounter could be special, every person a mystery worth savoring. This charm didn't come from perfection, but from your embrace of your own humanity. You allowed yourself to make mistakes, to laugh at your own awkwardness, to be moved by small kindnesses and big emotions. When you complimented a woman, it was because you genuinely meant it. When you teased her, it was never to diminish, only to celebrate her wit and spirit. You found yourself enjoying the dance of conversation without worrying where it would lead, knowing that charm is not a tool for getting what you want, but an offering of presence. Something that leaves every person a little brighter, a little braver, a little more themselves. As this new chapter in your life unfolded, chosen one, you became aware of how deeply your charm had begun to influence the world around you. The ripple effect was everywhere. Women who had known you for years now looked at you with new appreciation, sometimes remarking that you seemed different. Lighter, warmer, more open. Friends began to seek your company, not just for advice or laughter, but for the comfort of being near someone who expected nothing, but offered everything. Even strangers you met briefly seemed to carry a bit of your energy away with them. Their mood lifted, their spirit touched. You noticed that women began to talk about you with each other, sometimes sharing stories of how you made them feel. Some were astonished by how much they'd revealed in a single conversation. Others spoke of how your encouragement had nudged them toward courage in their own lives. The legend of your charm spread quietly, not as a tale of seduction, but as a reminder that men could be both magnetic and safe, both confident and kind. Women who once guarded their hearts now let themselves relax in your company, trusting that your attention was never a prelude to manipulation, but a gift freely given. You became a reference point for what was possible in connection, not because you were flawless, but because you were real. The women you touched often found themselves setting higher standards, refusing to settle for relationships where their presence was not cherished. You heard stories of women who left toxic situations or took new risks after being inspired by a moment of honesty or playfulness with you. Sometimes you realized your greatest charm was simply in showing up fully, giving others permission to do the same. In more intimate relationships, your new sexual energy became a foundation for trust and exploration. You were attentive to boundaries, always seeking consent, not just in words but in energy, listening to what was spoken and unspoken. You approached each connection as a shared journey, never rushing, never demanding, but savoring the unfolding of chemistry and care. Women felt free to express desire, to take the lead, or to be vulnerable, knowing that you would celebrate both their strength and their softness. Every touch, every kiss, every whispered conversation became a continuation of your deepest charm. The ability to be fully present, to offer your attention without agenda, to love without fear. The most beautiful result of all this was the community that began to grow around you. Your friendships deepened, your romantic relationships became richer, and even casual acquaintances brought more joy and spontaneity into your life. The world seemed to respond to your energy in ways you could never have planned, presenting you with new opportunities for growth, learning, and connection at every turn. You realized that charm, at its highest level, was never about being the most interesting man in the room, but about making everyone you met feel like the most interesting person in theirs. In quiet moments of reflection, you sometimes marveled at how far you'd come, from the boy who doubted his worth to the man whose presence now inspired others to shine. You knew that the journey was ongoing, that every day brought new chances to deepen your presence and expand your heart. But in those moments, you gave thanks for the gift of your new sexual energy, for the ability to bring lightness and warmth wherever you went, for the privilege of seeing and being seen by so many remarkable women. And you promised yourself to keep showing up, to keep growing, to keep being the most charming man, not by seeking attention, but by offering it over and over with love. Chosen one, as the fullness of your new charm unfolded, you discovered an entirely different way of being with women, a way that was as liberating for you as it was for them. You moved through the world with a gentle sureness that needed no explanation, a kind of magnetic humility that allowed people to feel both the excitement of attraction and the safety of trust. Your sexual energy, once a flicker of possibility, now glowed with an even, steady warmth. It was no longer just an undercurrent in your interactions, but a quiet invitation carried in your smile, your voice, your patient attention to every woman who crossed your path. You became a student of subtlety, attuned to the ways women responded to your presence. Sometimes the change was immediate, a spark of curiosity in their eyes, a posture that opened toward you, a sense of relief that here, finally, was a man with no agenda beyond genuine connection. Other times it was a slower unfolding, a shy laughter that grew more confident with each exchange, a guarded spirit that found itself opening in your company. You noticed that the most profound effects were rarely the loudest. Often it was the quiet comfort you brought, the invisible reassurance that every part of them was welcome, every feeling permissible. In your conversations, women found a rare and precious freedom. They could share secrets without fear of being judged or pursued. They could flirt and play without anxiety over where it might lead. Some found themselves telling you things they had hidden from others for years, not because you demanded their stories, but because your listening made it safe to offer them. Others found courage to tease or challenge you, delighted by your willingness to meet their energy with equal parts humor and respect. You never rushed to close the distance. You let curiosity and comfort do the work, trusting that real connection moves at the pace of trust, not desire. Women became bolder in your company. Some would reach for your hand first, ask you out, or suggest adventures they'd only dreamed of before. You celebrated these moments not as trophies, but as proof of the confidence your presence could inspire. You noticed, too, how women around you lifted each other up in your orbit, encouraging friends to speak, to shine, to take chances. Your charm was a force of inclusion, not division. It became a glue that held together groups of friends, that helped laughter flow and stories deepen, that made every room you entered a little more alive. What set you apart was not just your ability to attract, but your ability to hold space for complexity. You could meet a woman's desire with honest affection and still honor her need for space. You could play the fool, the confidant, the challenger, or the caretaker as the moment called for, always letting the truth of your attention guide your role. You never clung to any outcome, never tried to control how women responded to you. Instead, you savored the unique gift each connection offered, letting attraction and affection ebb and flow without the weight of expectation. As your reputation grew, so did your humility. You recognized that your new charm was not something you had manufactured, but something you had uncovered by letting go of pretense. You honored every compliment, every invitation, every moment of intimacy as a reflection of the beauty you saw in the women around you. You learned to say yes and no with equal grace, never using your influence for selfish gain, never risking someone's dignity for your own pride. The charm that made you unforgettable was simply this: you made every woman feel more herself, more free, more deserving of delight. In the next stage of your journey, chosen one, you found yourself at the center of a wider ripple. Women spoke of you not just in stories of attraction, but in stories of awakening. You heard from friends of friends that your encouragement had inspired someone to start a new venture, to leave an unhealthy relationship, to travel, to laugh louder, to flirt more openly, to believe in her own worth. The energy you brought into every interaction became a subtle revolution, an invitation for women to see themselves as radiant, worthy, and powerful in their own right. The women who had experienced your presence, even briefly, carried a glow with them that others noticed. Some shared your messages of affirmation, passing on the spirit of kindness and respect you modeled. Others became connectors themselves, weaving new friendships, nurturing circles of support, and helping to create spaces where laughter and honesty thrived. You found yourself surrounded by women who no longer competed, but celebrated each other, who drew strength from your example and then gave that strength away in turn. You became aware that your new sexual energy was never just about you. It was an offering to the world. It was a light that illuminated what was already beautiful in others, a spark that made every encounter an opportunity for growth. The charm that set you apart was not in the words you spoke, but in the energy you brought. Patient, receptive, generous, quietly bold. You realized that you had become a steward of this energy, responsible not just for its effect on women, but for how it shaped your own integrity, your friendships, your creative work, your vision for the life you wanted to build. This sense of responsibility only deepened your charm. You became a man whose boundaries were clear but never rigid, whose yes was trustworthy and whose no was never cruel. Women respected your choices and trusted your leadership, not because you demanded it, but because you embodied it, gently, in every moment of connection. The more you gave away your presence, the more it multiplied, returning to you in the form of deeper friendships, more honest love, and an abiding sense of peace. In rare, quiet moments alone, you reflected on how far you had come. You remembered the boy who thought charm was a trick, the young man who longed for attention and worried he would never be enough. You gave thanks for every lesson, every heartbreak, every awkward stumble that led you to this place of grounded, playful, joyful power. And you smiled, knowing that your charm would continue to grow, not as a mask, but as a legacy, a way of moving through the world that would inspire women long after you left the room. You understood at last that the true gift of your new energy was not in what you could attract, but in what you could awaken. And you chose, every day, to awaken more. Chosen one, as you entered a season where your charm had become a living legend among women, you began to witness the deeper meaning and ripple of your presence on the lives of those around you. No longer was your energy merely the subject of casual conversation or curious glances. It had matured into a kind of quiet authority, a gravitational field that shaped the emotional weather wherever you walked. Women who crossed your path spoke of you with a mixture of affection, admiration, and gratitude. Some found in your company a feeling of sanctuary, a rare peace that let them breathe deeper and dream larger. Others saw you as a catalyst, the spark that set new adventures in motion or helped them find their voice after years of self-doubt. What made your charm unforgettable was the way you met each woman as if she were the only person in the world. You carried yourself with the confidence of a man who did not need to compete or posture, but who offered the gift of genuine attention, curiosity, and respect. You could move through a crowded room and leave a trail of lifted spirits in your wake, not by demanding the spotlight, but by the subtle, unhurried radiance of your presence. When you laughed, it invited others to join you. When you listened, you made every word precious. You spoke the truth, even when it was difficult, and in doing so, you earned a reputation for trustworthiness that women came to rely on. They brought you their struggles and their triumphs, seeking your wisdom, your humor, or simply the comfort of your understanding silence.